He's got to actually do something that I don't think we've ever seen anybody do before. He's got to.
What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So, Nick, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Alexander Volkanovski, finds himself almost a 3-1 underdog as he goes for champ against Islam Makhachev. What do you make of this, and is there any way Volk can beat Islam?
Well, I think there are a couple of ways, but they're very, very interesting. And one thing I will say is, even though he is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, when you move up a weight class, generally people think that the bigger guys are more difficult to finish, and they usually are. So I feel like Islam Makhachev is the rightful favorite in this fight, but Volkanovski's a dog. He always comes in with a really good game plan, and his team is absolutely one of the best in the business. So I know they've been working exactly what they need to do to figure out the best ways they can possibly win against Islam. Beating Team Khabib is easier said than done, but if anybody's up for the job, I think it might be Volkanovski.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Volkanovski seems to have all the skills, right? He's excellent on the feet. He's very strong physically, especially for 145, so it'll be interesting to see how strong he is against Islam at 55. Also, he's very good on the ground as well. He's good with the takedowns. He times them well. Not saying that I think he's going to go for a takedown against Makhachev, but he certainly has looked good on the ground, and he showed tremendous heart fighting out of tough submissions like he did against Brian T-City Ortega. Now, I also think it's harder to fight out of a submission with Islam Makhachev on top of you than it is T-City, and that's no slight to Brian. That's just credit to how good Islam actually is. But I think if Volk is going to win this fight, he's going to have to be perfect for nearly 25 minutes, because the one thing that Islam does better than most people in the UFC, if not all, is he gives you zero opportunities. He's not going to go out there and engage in a firefight with you. He's not going to bite down on his mouthpiece and hope for the best. He's going to stick to a very calculated game plan that he spent months cultivating with Khabib. He's going to stick to what he does best. He's going to stay at home with his striking, ones and twos down the middle, hands up, and he's going to look for his opportunities, and he'll be happy to wait 1, 2, 3 rounds just to find that right opportunity to get you on the ground, because he knows just how lethal he is there.
For sure, and all the same can be said for Volkanovski. You know, we've seen him go in there time and time again and implement a perfect game plan and just systematically break down his opponents. You know, he'll go win round after round after round, and then they start to get desperate. They know that the clock's not on their side anymore, so they start to leave themselves open and exposed more than they would like to, and that's when Volkanovski really can come on and look sharp. 55 is a different animal than 45, and Volkanovski is not known as a very big 45er. Now, I understand people know him, that the guy that used to be 220 pounds, but that was a very long time ago, and he does fill out the frame for 145 pretty good. But he's shorter than most of the guys at 45, and obviously that makes him shorter than most of the guys at 55, which is where this game plan that I'm envisioning he's going to need to take into this fight is going to be tricky. So Islam Makhachev has a couple of ways that he likes to get the fight where he likes it. And one of them is to put pressure on you so much so that you're avoiding the takedowns at all costs, and then you forget that you're only about 1 or 2 feet, 1 or 2 steps away from the cage. Then he utilizes the cage just like Khabib used to as a part of the fighting apparatus, which is something that no team has done quite as successfully as they have. They can use the cage to their advantage to get you to the positions they want, and then from there, ground and pound submissions, all of their world really starts to open up down there. So while Volkanovski's very good at being elusive, very good at moving around the cage and using every bit of the cage that he can, he's got to be careful at doing that, because if he winds up near the cage, he's going to get taken down. And at the same time, you can't just forward pressure a fighter like Islam Makhachev, because he'll time you on your entry and he'll shoot a double leg. He'll wind up taking you to the ground. So he's got to actually do something that I don't think we've ever seen anybody do before. He's got to maintain the center of the octagon without getting pressured backwards into the cage, but at the same time, not overstep and get taken down because he's closed the distance too much on Islam.
Man, that's a great point. To be elusive while pressuring is something, that's a line that's extremely difficult to toe. And if anybody could toe it, maybe it'll be Alexander Volkanovski. But that's a great point, because we do see Team Khabib, especially Khabib himself, and now Islam, utilize that cage better than anybody. They're great with the inside trips, the outside trips. They use that cage to get their opponent not only to the ground, but kind of in a position where they can't escape from. Their back's against the cage. Sometimes their neck is like pinned up against the cage. They wrap their legs up, and then, it's sort of rinse and repeat with the ground and pound until the fight gets finished. But Also, you can't discount how good of wrestlers they are in the open space as well. And if you come pressure forward against Islam, just sort of reckless, he is going to time that. He is going to level change, and you're going to get blast doubled. And what's going to happen from there is you're going to end up on your back without the opportunity to use the cage to walk yourself up. You're just going to be trying to get up in open space against Islam Makhachev, which is pretty close to impossible. So I think that's an extraordinarily difficult line that Volkanovski's going to have to toe. But I think you're right. That is the only line that he can toe if he's going to have a shot in this fight. And while he is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Makhachev taking that #1 spot after this fight's over because he's so good in so many ways.
Yeah, a couple of the things that Volkanovski's going to have to do to make sure that game plan can come to fruition is he's got to use that speed that he's got. He's going to be the faster fighter, and he's really good at getting in and out. Now, when you go against somebody that looks for takedowns, you can't just move straight backwards because they will chase you, and then eventually you'll be near the cage. You'll be able to get taken down. But if you take your shots, you land because you're the faster fighter, and then move off on angles, you can tend to continue to circle around and make them chase you, and then you won't be able to find those takedowns quite as easily. And the other thing he's got to do is chop those legs. You know, Islam Makhachev is pretty good at checking kicks, and he knows how to utilize his striking even better than his coach Khabib used to do. But I think Islam Makhachev still is going to be a little bit of an underdog as far as the striking goes. And if Volkanovski's able to get his strikes off, get away, and keep his feet and his gas tank at 100% all the way through 5 rounds, we could see him pull this off. Very, very difficult fight for him. But I will say, you got to dare to be great in this sport, and this is the absolute best fight they could make to see who the #1 pound-for-pound fighter is. And the coolest thing about it is Dana White, Sean Shelby, Mick Maynard, none of them had to do this. They didn't have to match make this fight. These two guys went out and made it themselves, and that's what I find really special about this fight. So I can't wait for February.
Well said. If you're an MMA purist, this is an absolute must-watch.
100%.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. We're your hub for all things combat sports. If that's your jam, we appreciate a subscribe and a like on the video, and drop us a comment down below. We'll see you next time.
Peace.